A sold-out stadium, a secretive handover. In an instant, a seemingly innocent gesture turned the K-pop world upside down. Leave him alone. The Jungkook food incident just got messy. Welcome to StarScope K-Report.
Join Eric and Minji as they ride the Hallyu wave, uncovering the biggest K-pop comebacks, shocking industry controversies, and major K-drama updates. From internet-breaking rumors to historic chart milestones, we dive deep into the world of Korean entertainment.
And today you are in for a seriously intense deep dive. Because, well, we are looking at a system that is basically buckling under the weight of its own global success.
We really are. It's a complex ecosystem, and today's mission is to explore the genuinely dangerous side of parasocial relationships.
Right, the dark side of the fandom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to map out the terrifying escalation of Sasaeng behavior, and more importantly, we're going to look at the structural mechanics of it all. You know, how the Korean media machine and the very algorithms that drive K-pop actually fuel this fire.
Yeah, and we're not just, giving you our opinions here. We are pulling from a really massive stack of sources for this deep dive.
Right. We are incorporating on-the-ground reporting from Koreaboo, the South China Morning Post, WION, and Sportskita.
Which is a lot of tea to spill.
It is. And we are pairing that with deep academic research from Erasmus University and HEC Montreal. Because to truly understand how this industry functions, we have to look at the flashpoints.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to see what happens when that carefully constructed barrier between an idol and the public completely collapses.
Yeah.
So let's set the scene.
Okay, take us there.
It's Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, August 5th and 6th, 2026.
The atmosphere is just absolutely electric. I mean, it's BTS.
Right. The stadium is packed for the Arirang World Tour. But backstage, there is a very different, highly tense situation unfolding.
Oh, this is the part that just makes my blood boil.
Two Boston-based food influencers, Max Carman and Kevin Park, actually managed to sneak a container of homemade kimchi into the venue.
How does that even happen?
Well, they bypassed standard fan security checks. And then they actively approached the group's staff and management, attempting to bypass all protocols to get this food directly to Jungkook.
Which, when you look at the immediate reaction online, it just set the entire K-Nets and international community on fire.
Oh, the backlash was instantaneous.
Naturally. I mean, the staff firmly rejected it, and thank goodness the kimchi never actually reached him. But, when you really look at this, you have to remember that Jungkook has explicitly, repeatedly set hard boundaries about this exact scenario.
Yes, he has a very well-documented history of outlining these parameters.
Exactly. I mean, look back at May 2023. He's on a Weverse live stream just trying to connect with fans, and he has to directly address the people sending unauthorized food deliveries to his actual house.
It was a very serious broadcast.
It was. He stated very clearly, "I can take care of my own meals." He even warned that if it didn't stop, he would track the receipt order numbers and take legal action.
Which is a completely reasonable boundary for anyone to set, let alone a global superstar.
Right. So when influencers bypass stadium security to feed the machinai of the biggest group in the world, it goes way beyond just being annoying. It's a terrifying breach of a basic human boundary.
And yet there was some debate about their intentions.
Yeah, I've seen some people online defending the influencers, arguing that, they had good intentions or they just wanted him to taste local food. But let's unpack the logic there for a second.
Please do.
It is exactly like a stranger breaking into your kitchen and cooking you dinner just because they watch your Instagram stories every day. You wouldn't say thank you, you'd literally call the police.
That is a highly accurate way to frame it. The illusion of intimacy that these influencers were operating under, it doesn't somehow negate the absolute reality of physical security.
No, not at all.
And when you analyze the reactions from domestic Korean netizens and international fans on platforms like Reddit and Kpop, the dominant emotion isn't just annoyance, it's absolute terror.
Because we've seen how bad this can get.
Exactly. Historically speaking, looking at the data of the industry, the terror is deeply justified.
We're talking about the long, awful history of poison paranoia in K-pop.
Precisely. If we connect this specific event to the broader history of Korean entertainment, accepting unauthorized food from strangers has resulted in severe physical trauma.
It's not just a hypothetical threat.
No, it's not. The security staff at Gillette Stadium weren't just being impolite. They were executing emergency-level protocols based on past precedent. We're talking about TVXQ's Yoonho, who literally had his stomach pumped after an anti-fan handed him orange juice laced with superglue.
Oh my God, I remember that. It fundamentally changes how agencies have to operate. When the threat is that severe, every single unverified item is a potential weapon.
It is. Or consider the devastating incident involving the mother of GOD member Yongsan.
That one is just heartbreaking.
She was actually poisoned after drinking a beverage delivered by a deranged fan. So, when you have that kind of historical data, a random container of homemade kimchi from unvetted individuals isn't a gift, it's a massive liability.
It really is. And, the academic research actually backs up why fans are so hypervigilant about this stuff.
Yes, the thesis from Erasmus University.
Right, the one we were reviewing today. It dives into this exact psychological dynamic. The data shows that the broader fandom fully understands that, caring for an idol or loving their music and their visuals, it does not strip an artist of their right to physical safety.
The community itself recognizes that invasive behavior cannot be justified by love.
Exactly. Real fans know the difference.
The Erasmus research refers to this invasive behavior as a parasocial delusion. It is a structural failure where the fan's brain it stops distinguishing between a carefully produced media product and an actual reciprocal relationship.
And the terrifying part is how that delusion manifests in the real world, because the physical intrusions didn't just stop at unsolicited food deliveries at a stadium.
No, they escalated significantly.
They really did. And that's not even the wildest part of this story. Wait till you hear what netizens uncovered about the terrifying events on the exact day of his military discharge.
This is where we see the escalation from boundary pushing to outright home invasion. Let's look at the timeline, because the dates here are critical to understanding the psychological pressure being applied to these artists.
The dates are just sickening.
On June 11, 2025, the very day Jungkook was discharged from the military, which officially ended his hiatus, a Chinese woman in her 30s was caught on CCTV.
The very first day. The absolute second he is supposed to reintegrate into civilian life.
Yes. She had traveled to Korea specifically to intercept him, and she was caught on camera repeatedly pressing the passcode to his front door at his private residence in Yongsan.
That is straight out of a horror movie.
HYBE, his agency, released a statement via Weverse that Koreaboo accurately described as a ruthless zero-tolerance policy.
Which they absolutely needed to do.
They confirmed they handed over all CCTV footage, and we're cooperating with the police to ensure strict criminal punishment.
But the structural problem here is that these agencies are playing an endless game of whack-a-mole, because this wasn't an isolated vulnerability.
Unfortunately, no. According to a detailed report by WIM, a separate individual, a Brazilian woman, targeted that exact same residence between December 2025 and February 2026.
Over a period of months.
Yes. She visited the property 22 separate times. She was documented throwing items over the exterior walls. And in one single night, she rang his doorbell 133 times.
Okay, I need everyone to stop and really process the mechanics of that. 133 times in one night.
It's an overwhelming number.
If you are sitting in your own home, the one place where you are entirely removed from the cameras and the crowds, and your doorbell rings 133 times, that is systemic psychological torture.
It absolutely is. And looking at the sources, this isn't just an isolated fixation on one artist. The data shows it is a systemic vulnerability across the entire industry.
Right, because other members have dealt with this too.
In October 2023, Taeyong V experienced a severe physical breach. A woman followed him into his apartment building's parking lot, managed to bypass the security perimeter, followed him into the elevator, and physically demanded he sign a marriage certificate.
An elevator, literally trapping him.
And just recently, in July 2026, V had to use Weverse to directly plead with fans to stop mobbing the group's hotels during their tour. He explained how it was severely compromising their limited recovery time and physical condition.
This is exactly why we use the term Sasaeng to describe this specific demographic.
Yes, the terminology is important here.
For those who might not know, it comes from the Korean words sa, meaning private, and sa, meaning life. The moment an individual starts aggressively stealing an artist's private life, they completely lose their status as a fan. They become a genuine, measurable threat.
That distinction is crucial in K-pop culture.
But what I really want to understand is how the legal framework responds to this. Because, when you look at the outcome for the Brazilian woman who rang the doorbell 133 times, she received a 1-year prison sentence, but it was suspended for 2 years.
It highlights a massive gap between the reality of modern global stalking and the traditional application of the law.
But why is the law designed that way? Are they legally treating this like a minor nuisance, like a trespassing ticket, rather than acknowledging the psychological terror involved?
Essentially, yes.
Giving a suspended sentence for 133 doorbell rings and property invasion is like, I don't know, it's like using a local noise ordinance to punish international corporate espionage. The legal framework just seems entirely unmatched to the actual scale and severity of the crime.
You are identifying the exact friction point in the South Korean legal system. Historically, stalking was often categorized under minor misdemeanor laws. It was treated more as a persistent bother than severe psychological violence.
Which is just so dismissive.
While South Korea did recently amend its laws to officially categorize stalking as a serious, punishable crime with heavier penalties, the judicial application, as we see with these suspended sentences, often defaults to leniency if there is no physical bodily harm.
So they just wait for someone to actually get hurt.
The courts are really struggling to quantify psychological torture.
It is a staggering failure of protection. And hey, if you love staying updated on your favorites and deep diving into the real structural stories behind the charts, make sure you're subscribed to StarScope K-Report. We've got even bigger scoops ahead.
We definitely do.
Because later in this deep dive, we'll talk about a shocking plot twist involving the Korean media themselves that nobody saw coming.
And that transition is crucial because stalking and entitlement do not happen in a vacuum.
Exactly. It doesn't just spring out of nowhere.
These individuals feel entitled to the artists because the ecosystem is actively designed to cultivate that exact delusion.
This is where we have to look at the agencies and the media. Because the fans, the stalkers, they are just the end users. We really need to look at the machinery that profits from this dynamic.
The Erasmus University thesis provides incredible insight here. It notes that RMYs are increasingly mobilizing to demand that big hit music and HYBE take stronger, more preventative action to protect their artists.
Because fans are tired of seeing their bias get harassed.
Right. And this isn't just online chatter. This structural frustration culminated in real physical fan protests against the company in May 2024.
Oh, the trucks outside the building?
Yes. The core of the protest was the argument that agencies are excellent at monetizing the artists, but failing at protecting the human beings generating that capital. But as you mentioned, there is a secondary engine driving this, and that's the media.
Oh, the media. The sheer volume of clickbait is just intoxicating to the algorithms.
The report from HAC Montreal on digital media manipulation in South Korea lays out the exact mechanism of how this works. They analyze how the dark side of parasocial relationships is quite literally weaponized for ad revenue.
It's a business model built on anxiety.
To understand the machinery, let's look at the data from Suga's incident in June 2024.
Right, the electric scooter situation.
Exactly. The foundational facts of the event were incredibly straightforward. Suga admitted to riding an electric kickboard scooter on the sidewalk at a slow speed after drinking.
He mistakenly believed it was a safe, legal alternative to driving a car.
Right. He fell, he was fined, he immediately apologized. It was a victimless, minor administrative infraction. But the HEC Montreal report breaks down how the Korean media ecosystem processed that event.
They didn't just report it, though. They systematically manufactured a crisis.
They did. The algorithmic incentive structure of Korean portals, specifically real-time search rankings and the emergence of YouTube cyberwreckers, demands constant escalation.
It's like pouring gasoline on a tiny spark.
The HEC report details how over 200 articles a day were being published.
Wait, 200 a day just about a scooter fine?
Yes, and they weren't just repeating facts. They were using highly inflammatory algorithm-triggering keywords like speeding, drunk driving, and highway.
Which completely distorts reality. It got to the point where a major broadcast station actually aired fake live TV CCTV footage of a completely different man speeding down a main road on a full-size motorized scooter.
Falsely claiming to the entire nation that it was Suga.
Which is outright, easily disprovable defamation. But the mechanism of the media machine doesn't care about the truth. It cares about the engagement metric and, what is the highest form of engagement?
Outrage.
Exactly. Moral panic. You broadcast that fake footage and you whip the anti-fans and the general public into an absolute frenzy. We saw the physical manifestation of that algorithm when hundreds of funeral wreaths were sent to the agency's building, explicitly demanding he leave the group.
The visual of that was quite disturbing.
Funeral wreaths. For a scooter fine, it just shows how quickly digital manipulation translates into physical, psychological warfare against the artists.
And the HEC Montreal report draws a direct, chilling line between this exact algorithmic machinery and real-world tragedy.
It's not just a harmless tabloid game.
No. The report links this relentless, click-driven media harassment model to the tragic death of Parasite actor Lee Sun-kyun just a year prior.
Oh, that was such a heartbreaking loss.
During a police investigation, the media published upwards of 50 highly speculative articles a day about him, creating a dominant public narrative of guilt and shame that completely overshadowed the actual facts of the case.
This reveals the most vicious, toxic paradox of the entire industry. I mean, think about the structural foundation of K-pop. The agencies purposely engineer these intense, deeply personal parasocial bonds between the idol and the fans.
It's by design.
Apps like Weverse are literally designed to blur the line between a global superstar and a close friend. You have an idol doing a live broadcast at 3 a.m. in their pajamas, eating ramen in their kitchen. It strips away the stadium lights and creates this incredibly potent one-to-one illusion of intimacy.
It's a highly effective, highly lucrative financial derivative.
Exactly. That is how you guarantee a comeback gets an all-kill on the charts. You make the fans feel like they are directly, personally responsible for the idol's success and emotional well-being.
Which is a powerful motivator.
But it is a double-edged sword. When that carefully engineered obsession crosses the line into Sasaeng territory, or, when the media decides to harvest clicks by tearing down the very bias they helped elevate, the artists are left entirely unprotected.
The infrastructure just isn't there to shield them.
Right. We constantly point the finger at the individual stalkers, but aren't the media conglomerates and the agencies operating a fundamentally dangerous business model? They monetize the illusion of access, but when the illusion shatters, it's the artist who pays the ultimate price.
You are hitting on the core systemic tension of modern entertainment. The industry weaponizes affection for profit, but outsources the psychological risk to the talent.
Which is so unfair.
However, the data shows that we are currently sitting at a legislative tipping point. Based on a comprehensive report from the Regulatory Review, the South Korean government is actively attempting to structurally intervene.
Really? Like, legally?
Yes. On January 1st, 2026, major revisions to the Popular Culture and Arts Industry Development Act officially took effect.
Okay, so how does that legislation actually change the mechanics of the industry?
It attacks the problem at the contractual level. The revisions mandate standard contracts across the entire industry that specifically define and enforce working conditions.
Okay, that's a start.
But the critical update is that for the first time, these revised contracts legally mandate expanded mental health protections for artists and actively seek to curb unfair, exploitative practices.
Wow, that is a huge shift.
It is a formal acknowledgement at the highest legislative level that the human beings generating the Hallyu wave are breaking under the systemic pressure. And agencies are now legally required to provide verifiable psychological safeguards.
It's an incredible step forward on paper, but you really have to question the practical application.
Enforcement is always the challenge.
Can a revised labor contract actually stop a deeply delusional person from ringing a doorbell 133 times? Can a government mandate stop a digital news editor whose salary depends on ad revenue from publishing 200 fake inflammatory articles a day?
It's highly unlikely to stop it entirely.
Right. And hey, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a KT update as we continue to track these legal changes.
Your skepticism is entirely supported by the data, though. The law is attempting to regulate a culture that moves at the speed of fiber optic internet.
Which is impossible to catch up to.
The HEC Montreal report concludes that legislative tweaks are insufficient on their own. Without a massive structural overhaul in digital media literacy and strict enforced regulation of algorithmic journalism and cyber wreckers, the clickbait culture will simply find new loopholes to exploit.
So they'll just keep taking a devastating toll on the artists?
Essentially, yes.
It fundamentally shifts how you view the entire ecosystem. I mean, you start out as a fan just wanting to support an artist's new music, maybe buy a few albums, cheer for them at a sold-out stadium in Foxborough. And the deeper you look, you realize that every single click, every view, every piece of engagement feeds this massive, uncontrollable surveillance and monetization machine.
It is the ultimate paradox of hypervisibility. The more attention we direct toward them, the more vulnerable their infrastructure becomes.
Which leaves you with a really tough, necessary question to mull over as we wrap up this analysis. As the Hallyu wave continues its unprecedented global expansion and these artists achieve levels of wealth and cultural influence that were unimaginable a decade ago, where do we actually draw the line?
It's the most important question moving forward.
Are we participating in a passionate, supportive global community? Or are we actively funding a high-definition, inescapable surveillance state with our own clicks? At what precise moment does loving an artist actually start destroying the art and the artists themselves?
You've been listening to StarScope K-Report, where Eric and Minji bring you the stories shaping K-pop, K-dramas, and the global Hallyu wave. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.